Joining us today is a former Navy SEAL and current host on Newsmax. Carl Higbie, welcome to Better for America.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Carl, America and the world really have changed substantially since COVID-19 hit. And while most Americans were focused on not getting sick, many in government were capitalizing on the issue. And I think for the first time, we saw how government forced its way into our daily lives through mask mandates, business lockdowns, school closings, vaccine mandates, travel restrictions. And then, of course, depression, anxiety, and youth suicide rates have increased considerably, which is just terrible. And today we're facing a mental health crisis like we've never seen before. So looking forward, how do we reverse some of these detrimental effects? And can we hold certain people accountable, those who condemned a large segment of our society?
Well, yeah, I think this is the big thing too. Is there was Surgeon General, the Biden administration Surgeon General came out the other day, was like, the number one epidemic we have now is loneliness. It's like, yeah, no duh. You guys locked people down, forced them to cover their faces, and made people take a vaccine that some of them didn't want or need. And of course, people are going to be upset by that. And you have kids now that are way behind on all this stuff educationally. So the issue is a lot of these pro lockdown, pro mask, pro vax people are coming out and saying like, hey, can we just get a do over? Let's just call it for what it. No, absolutely not. You get no do overs. You get no second chances from me. Like, you did things that destroyed the population's morale, our continuity, our education system. You get no do overs with me, and you need to be held accountable. So like, I would tell people, if you had a friend, even if it was a close friend or family member, make sure that you never let them live this down. There's no like, oh, let's get along now. These people wanted you to lose your job. They wanted you punished. They wanted you fined and, publicly admonished for your opinion, which turned out to be right now.
Carl, as a Navy SEAL, you truly know what a strong and powerful military looks like. And while we will always have the utmost respect, of course, and admiration for our great servicemen and women, it really seems that the higher ups right now are doing such extensive damage. The vaccine mandates were awful in their own right, but recently you covered how this woke drag ideology has further weakened our military, even more so. Recruitment, readiness, it's at an all-time low. Why, in your opinion, does the Biden administration insist on integrating drag queen ideology in our U.S. military? What kind of impact, in your view, does this have on our men and women who serve?
I mean, I got to say that I just genuinely believe that this administration has some sort of disdain for a strong military. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but I mean, look, they're throwing veterans out of hotels as recently as today to house illegal migrants, which is beyond me. But the problem is they want to make everything this like rush to empower some personally declared victim group. And the problem is the military, nobody, like when a bullet whizzes by your head, nobody cares. Nobody cares what color your skin is, who you sleep with, what you do on your off time. I care about, can you do the job? And if you're recruiting people out of an identity of being, different or a victim or whatever it chooses, like, I want you to recruit people who can shoot bad guys. That should be like the single litmus test. Are you physically fit enough to get into a fight? Can you shoot? Can you think on your feet in a bad scenario? And if the drag queen from the Navy is trying to say, oh, we're recruiting to Gen X or whatever the new thing is, I'm like, if that's what you need to do to recruit, you're probably recruiting in the wrong area.
Sure seems like it. I mean, I, like everybody else, have friends and family members who have bravely served our great nation. And when I engage in conversations with them about the current state of affairs, I can't help but notice their disappointment and frustration, really. It's as if they feel that the sacrifices that they made and the values that they fought for are really being undermined by the very institutions that they sought to protect. This situation does seem to be disheartening. Are you seeing the same thing? As a former Navy SEAL yourself, do you share that sentiment? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, and I have a ton of friends who are just like, the heck with this, and they're just getting out of the military. Guys who've been in 20, 30 years who are like, well, I probably would have done another 5, 10 years. They're saying this is ridiculous. It's not the Navy that I was in or the whatever, branch that they happen to be in. And Also, the bigger problem is like I have a bunch of friends who have kids that are of age to go into the military, and I tell them like I wouldn't join the military right now, which is a big problem because you see recruiting is already down like 20% across the board. That we still need to staff our army, which is it's a volunteer army at this point. And if you have an entire culture that is like perpetually victimhooded, perpetually weak, like that's what this is. Our society is becoming aggressively more weak by the day, and that's what they want. They want a population that is easy to control, that is not self-reliant, that is constantly sick, that is constantly blaming themselves. Because if they have a people, a nation that is reliant on a machine to keep going, they can control it. They can control the means of production. Like I live in Connecticut where you have to like register your garden if you want food. If you want to grow your own food, you have to register your garden. I was like, are you kidding me? Like that's what they want. And our military is just a perfect example of them spearheading this entire motion. I, for one,
Yeah.
think that mankind should be as unreliant on the government as possible because the government will always let you down. I mean, 100% of the time, they will always screw it up. They have like name one thing outside of the Manhattan Project that that a democratically held government, especially, has ever followed through on. Everything they touch, it's scorched earth, and it just gets worse and more expensive.
And so many of our institutions, our schools, the corporations, they're adopting so many woke policies that are detrimental to American prosperity. Things like ESG, CRT, DEI. I call it like an evil force, Carl. I think it's an evil force making its way into every facet of American life. But these people in power, those who could stop it, they seem to be naive or plainly ignoring what the majority of Americans want. Is there a hedge of protection around powerful corporations, unions, government institutions that go woke? Because it almost seems like, are they getting kickbacks? The American people, clearly, the majority clearly don't want this. Look at Anheuser-Busch.
So the issue is there is some disconnect between the people who are running these corporations and their base. And Anheuser-Busch is a perfect example of that. They're down 25+% across a variety of different boards and things like that. The real issue is that people just need to start voting with their dollars. Look, I think Amazon is convenient. I like it. However, I try not to shop on it because I don't agree with their views. I founded an app called Align Us that allows you to rate companies based on their political ideology, just like Yelp does with a customer service review. But there's other companies out there like Mammoth Nation, which is paralleling, like it's kind of like an online Costco. There's enough market for these companies, and they're doing a really good job. But the problem is not enough people know about them, and you need to make sure that you're making the statement. And you might be one person, your family might be five people, but that makes a statement when you tell your neighbors and they tell their neighbors and their friends and things like that. You have to push these companies either to make significant financial downfall, like Anheuser-Busch, for them to realize it. And otherwise, you just have the problem is you have this new age of marketing people that are like, oh, you know what, we just didn't do it right. Like we need to reform our audience and our customer base. It's like, no, you need to sell me a product. I don't like leave your, and that was the thing with Disney too. Leave your political ideology the heck out of business. Do your job, give me a product that I like, and I will keep shopping with you. But the second you wade into politics, Budweiser is a perfect example. You lose a significant portion of your base. And if you're Budweiser, if your logo is on the hood of a NASCAR, then why would you support the trans community? They're not like they're almost mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Well, this is why we do this show, is really to educate people, to get the word out. And I love what you founded, Align Us. That's really great. We'll put that up here in the bio. Hope for America's future. Before we let you go, when you look at the future, what kind of hope do you have? Because for me, over the last 10 years, this country has changed so much. It's really almost unrecognizable. It's different. What they're teaching children in schools, and mainstream news is completely off the wall. What kind of hope do you have for the future?
I'm long on America. I always tell that. And the pendulum always swings. I mean, we've seen this before, like the Vietnam War protests and things like that. I don't know if it's ever swung this far, but keep in mind, every time the pendulum swings, it swings equally back in the other direction. So this is one of those things like the age old proverb, which is, hard men create good times. Good times create soft men create hard times create hard men, and it cycles around. And it, you have to understand that, like, we have, I say it all the time, we live in a culture where, the people below the poverty line in America, the number one health concern is obesity. Like, half the world is figuring out what the heck they're going to eat for their next meal. And in America, people below the poverty line, our poorest Americans, who, by the way, pay no taxes, have air conditioning, iPhones, likely a video game system, cable TV, plenty of food. Like, we have a society that is so great that we're literally just inventing things to be mad about, like this trans thing and then this victimization. Like, they're just inventing things so they can be the next level of oppressed, which your level of oppression in today's society is somehow an achievement. And I think enough people are bothered by that this pendulum is going to start swinging real quick. And we're going to look, we can survive a Joe Biden, or Kamala Harris, or Barack Obama, but what we can't survive is an electorate dumb enough to keep electing the same people. And I'm thinking that it's become bad enough that they're eventually going to say, we can't do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we just heard Joe Biden say just a day ago that the greatest threat here in America at home is white supremacy. That
It's
really
not.
was shocking to me. It's not. I agree with you there. And when you fill those ideas into young minds, developing, young adults, it's concerning because that's a great way to further divide this nation rather than bring us together. Well, Carl, we appreciate you so much. Tell our listeners how they can find you. You're with Newsmax.
Yeah, Newsmax, 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Frontline, that's my show. It's basically I like to call it a breath of fresh air in the journalistic industry. I really don't care that much if people are offended by facts, because facts don't care about your feelings, as Ben Shapiro says. But I also, like, I don't have a college degree. I'm not a fancy guy. I don't use big SAT words. I'm a normal person that just happens to be sitting in front of a camera. And I think that it's a nice juxtaposition from a lot of media. And I'm going to give it to you as honestly and straight as I can every single time. So we'd love to see you guys there.
Thank you so much, Carl Higbie, former, or I should say, Navy SEAL. I hate to use the word former. What an amazing accomplishment. Thank you again for standing up and fighting for America. And we look forward to seeing you there on Newsmax. Thank you again for joining us, for taking your time. We'll be pulling for you as always in your new program. Keep up the great work, and God bless you.
Thank you. You too.